On this channel, I have built lots of apps using Firebase. I have also built lots of apps using Supabase, but I have never really built an app using PocketBase, which is an amazing, easy to use, lightweight, 100% free, and 100% open source backend that you can use for your apps. And so in today's video, you're going to learn how to design and set up PocketBase data schema. You're also going to learn how to configure FlutterFlow's custom authentication to work with PocketBase. Then you're going to learn how to configure FlutterFlow to work with PocketBase natively, followed by how to make CRUD requests from FlutterFlow to PocketBase. CRUD, if you don't yet know, stands for Create, Read, Update, Delete. And this is an overall umbrella term that you can use when you are trying to manipulate data in a specific data store. You're also going to learn key tips and tricks that you need to know if you're going to be building apps with PocketBase. And last but not least, I'm also going to be sharing with you final thoughts regarding different challenges and things that I learned when it comes to building all kinds of apps with PocketBase. So you definitely do not want to miss this very, very important part of the video. Now, before we start to build the actual app, I think it's very, very important to go over the architecture to realize what is the scope of the app that we're building and what kind of features are we going to introduce in this initial version of the app. So the app that we're going to be building is going to be a car booking app with PocketBase as the backend and FlutterFlow as the front-end / logic no-code app builder. So the way this app is going to work is that the user is going to log in, and when they log in, they're going to see various offers of cars, prices, etc., that they can book for a specific period of time. They can also click on a specific offer. They're going to go to the offer detail, and from the offer detail, they can book this specific car. And after they do that, they're going to be greeted with a confirmation page. Another feature that I want to introduce with this app is the favorites functionality. And so in this case, when they see a specific rental offer, they can save it to their list of favorites instead of booking it directly. And then later on, they can check out this list of favorites that they have saved, and then they can book a specific offer, and they're going to be redirected to the confirmation page the same way that we have in this flow here. The next feature that we're going to have in this app is the ability to see all the past trips. And so users will be able to see all the past trips that they have booked through this app. Last but not least, we're also going to have a profile page functionality where the user can check out their existing details, modify their details, sign out of the app, and maybe a couple of other things they'll be able to do from that specific page. I also downloaded a couple of screenshots from a popular app that kind of does the same thing. And so here you are seeing the list of offers, right? These are the list of offers. This is a continuation of the list of offers here. And so you'll be able to see a picture of the car, the name of the car, maybe some reviews, the price, etc., etc. And then when you click on a specific offer, you're going to be redirected to this detail page here where you're essentially going to be seeing more information about the specific offer. And then you can click on continue, and that's going to be the order booking flow where you can book the specific car, and you're going to see a confirmation page. Now, if you check out this bottom of the page here, this nav bar here, you can see some of the other functionalities. So this is the main page here. We also have favorites, we have trips, we have an inbox, and we have more, but this more here is going to be a profile page. Okay, so they'll be able to see a list of favorites, a list of trips. Maybe if time allows, we'll build out this kind of inbox functionality, and we're also going to have a profile page here where the user can go to see their personal information, modify their personal information, as well as log out from the app. All right, so now that we talked about the app that we're going to be building, we've taken a look at the architecture, we've gotten a general idea what kind of app that we're going to be building. The next thing that I want to talk about is setting up our PocketBase instance in order to store the data that we're going to be using for the app. So if you're not yet familiar with PocketBase, I have actually a really good video that I'm going to link right there, where you can learn everything that you need to know about this amazing, lightweight, free backend, including how to set it up, how to self-host it, everything that you need to know. So definitely check out the video right there. Now, right here, I'm looking at my own self-hosted personal PocketBase instance. Okay, so here I'm looking at the users collection, which is a built-in collection, and I actually went ahead and created a couple of users here. So I have 3 users here, and this is important because we are going to be implementing authentication, custom authentication in our app that's going to be using PocketBase as the authentication backend. Okay, so I went ahead and did this. So we have these users here. The next collection that I want to create is the cars collection, and this is going to be a list of cars that are linked to a particular owner. Okay, and these are going to be the list of cars that the users will be seeing on the initial login to the app. So when the user logs in, they're going to see those list of cars, and we also need to tie each car to a specific owner. So I'm going to click here, new collection. I'm going to say cars, and now we need to define the various fields. Okay, so there's a bunch of system fields that are created for us automatically. This includes things like ID, created and updated, and this is perfect because it's going to make things a lot easier later on when we need to query this data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some custom fields for this particular collection here. The first field I'm going to create is information about the car. So I'm going to use plain text, and I'm going to call this brand. So this is the car brand. I'm going to follow up with a model. So we need the brand and the model. Next, I want to create the price. This is going to be the daily price. I'm going to be using this number field here, and I'm going to say price. And last but not least, I also need to define the owner that this particular car is linked to. And we can do that by clicking here. And here we can create a relation-based field. So if you click here, and we can just call it owner here. And here we can select a collection called users, and we're going to be using a single because each car is going to be linked to a single owner, not multiple owners. And at this point, we are done. Now, later on, we can add more fields. We can remove fields like we typically do. But at this point, we can simply click create. And that's going to go ahead and create our new cars collection. The next collection I want to create is the booking collection. Okay, and this is where the user sees those cars. They're interested in a particular car. They click that car, they select it, and then they book it for a specific time period. Okay, so we're going to say bookings. And here we're going to create a new field, and the first field we want to create is the relation field that's going to be linked to the car, right? So I'm going to say car. This is going to be linked to cars. Next, I'm going to link another relation field, and this is going to be the person that actually booked the car, right? So we have a car with an owner, which is part of the users collection. And then we also have the person that booked. That's also linked to the user collection. So we're going to select users here, and I'm going to call this the renter. Okay. Next, we also need fields that represent the time period, right? So from this specific date to this specific date. So we're going to add a new field, and this is going to be date time. And I'm going to say from, and I'm going to add a new date time here. And this is going to be 2. Okay, so now we have most of the fields that we need to store a specific booking. We have the specific car, we have the renter, we have from, and we have to. So at this point, we can click on create. And now that went ahead and created our bookings collection. So now we have 3 collections. We have the users collection, which is going to contain all the various users. And remember, these users are going to be both. Some users are going to be the people that are offering the cars, right? Some people are going to be the people that are renting the cars, and you can have one user that can be both, right? So maybe I'm, renting out a Toyota Camry, but I want to, rent a Tesla or something, right? So you can have that both. Now, the next thing that we need to do is we need to configure the right permissions for these collections. So if we select this collection here that we've just created, and we click here, and we click on API rules, as you can see, by default, only admins can, work with this data, right? So you have various rules here: list, view, create, update, delete, and it's only admins right now. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to unlock these so that anybody can access them. And later on, we're going to tweak these rules depending on specific users. So I'm going to click on save here. And now this is open, which is going to allow us to easily build out the app and test and everything that we need to do. Next, we're going to go into cars and we're going to do the same thing. Click on edit collection, API rules, and you want to unlock it, right? Unlock all of this so that we can easily work with this data. Okay. All right. So now we have 3 of these collections. We have 2 collections here for our data, and we've removed the rules so that they're all publicly accessible, which is exactly what we need. And so at this point, we are done with the initial PocketBase setup. The next thing that we need to do is start to build out our app. All right, so here I am logged into FlutterFlow. We're going to create a brand new project here. We're not going to be using Firebase. We're going to click on Start Building. And here we are, created a brand new FlutterFlow app. Now, one of the challenges when you're using PocketBase with FlutterFlow is that PocketBase is not supported natively by FlutterFlow. FlutterFlow supports Firebase natively. FlutterFlow also supports Supabase natively, but FlutterFlow does not support PocketBase natively. And so you have 2 options when it comes to integrating PocketBase with FlutterFlow. The first option that you have is that you can use APIs to connect with it, right? So if you go into bookings here, you can click on API preview and you can see various APIs here. And yes, you can do that. But a much better way to connect to FlutterFlow to integrate the 2 systems is natively. And if you scroll up, you can see that there is actually a piece of Dart code that you can use for various functions. So you can do view using this specific line here. You can do create using this specific line. And so the way that we're going to be integrating PocketBase with FlutterFlow is we are going to be creating custom actions that are going to hook up to these native commands here, right? To these native methods and get the data that we need without relying on API calls or anything like that. And this, in my view, is the best way to integrate a system such as PocketBase with a FlutterFlow app. So let me show you how you can do it. So what you want to do is you want to go back to your app and you want to create various custom actions that you're going to be invoking throughout the app, depending on what you're trying to do. So as an example, let's say we have this first page that will display all the various cars that we have in that collection. And so the custom action that you're going to be invoking is going to be a list action because you want to list the various options. And so we're going to come here, we're going to say add, and we're going to add a custom action. And we're going to say get list. Okay. Next, you want to click here and you want to get all of this boilerplate and you want to say copy to editor. Now that you've copied it here, you can create your custom action that will return the specific data that you need. And so now we can go back to PocketBase. Let's say you want to list cars, click on cars, API preview, and you can use this code here to list the data in this cars collection. Okay. And so what you want to do is you want to copy all of this here. You want to go back to your app and you want to paste it right here. Now you want to make sure that this import is outside the function, but everything else is inside the function here. Now, don't worry about different errors here. They're going to go away after we finish. You want to make sure that you get the code right. And so we can copy this right here to get the full list. Go back here and you can paste it here, okay? And so what this is doing is it's going to your collection called cars that we have defined, and it's pulling all the records. So at this point, we have a list of all the records for that collection. Now, because we're using this PocketBase library, you want to add a dependency here as well. And so I'm going to paste this here. This is going to include the specific PocketBase library as a dependency here. And when you paste this here, you're creating a dependency on this specific library. So you're essentially telling FlutterFlow, hey, FlutterFlow, make sure you are using this library with this code, because if you're not using this piece of library here, you won't be able to use this specific PocketBase specific functions, this PocketBase API here. So once you have that here, once you have this here, you are ready to start using the code here. Now, what do we want this specific custom action to return to us, right? It needs to have a return value, of course. And what we wanted to happen is we wanted to return a list of cars, right? That's kind of what we want. So we're going to say is list, but we can't really select a list of cars here, right? We have simple types such as integers, doubles, boolean, strings. And so hypothetically, we can return a list of strings, a list of integers, a list of doubles, but that's not very, very helpful to us, right? What we want to happen is we want this specific custom action to come back to us with a list of cars, okay? And so the way that we're going to be doing is, well, first we need to save it here, save it. And what we need to do is we need to define a data type that's going to represent a record in that cars collection, right? So we're going to come here and we're going to say car type, okay? We're going to say create. And what we want to do is we want to mirror this car data type to what we have here, right? So if we click on edit collection, you see that we have four fields here. We have brand, model, price, and the owner, okay? And so that is exactly what we want to do. And so we want to come back here and we want to create the same fields in this custom data type, because later on we're going to be configuring these data types with the data that we are getting back from PocketBase. So I'm going to add a couple of new fields, and those fields were brand, model, price, owner. So let's do that right now. Brand is a string, model is a string, price is a let's just use integer. You can use double if you want. And last but not least, we have the owner. But for the owner, we're going to simplify things a little bit. Now in PocketBase, that owner is linked to another collection. Here in this custom data type, we are only going to be displaying a specific, field from the owner's collection. So I'm going to say owner. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to display maybe the owner's name. Okay, so I'm just going to say owner. And in fact, what we can do is we can say owner name. Okay, and this is going to be a string. Later on, we can display other things related to the owner. Okay, so now we have a custom data type called car type that we are modeling on this collection here. And that is what you need to do in order to connect FlutterFlow to PocketBase. Okay, so now we have this here, and now we can reference and manipulate this specific data type in our custom action. So we're going to come back here, and what you can do is something like the following we have here. So you can create a list of those car types, right? This is that car type that we defined, and then you can go through each of the records that you're getting from PocketBase and create a new car object based on that car type and add it to a list and then return the list. And this is exactly what we're doing here, right? We're creating a list of those car types, okay? And then here we are cycling through each of the records that we're getting back from PocketBase, and we are creating this new car object based on that car type. And in this case, we're simply filling in the brand and the model, okay? Just to show you that it works. And we are adding this new object to this new list. And now we can click on return value and we can say, okay, it's going to be a list, but it's going to be a data type, and we can define a car type. And if you click here, you can see that you need your return to be this right here, and this is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to put that, and now you can click on save, and that's going to save it with absolutely no issues. And you can also click here just to make sure that everything is working properly. And as you can see, there are absolutely no errors. Everything compiles perfectly, and this piece of code is ready to go. And so this is our first custom action that integrates with PocketBase natively without any APIs directly to our custom data types. Okay, and so now that we have this custom action tested and working, we need to make sure that we are displaying the results correctly. And so let's go ahead and do that right now. So we're going to come back here, and what you can do is you can create a list, right? So we're going to create a list view here, and let's say this is a very, very simple list view just to show you how things work. And let's say we have two text elements, duplicate here, and now we can click on this list view, and this list view can use the output from the custom action as the source for it. Now, this list view here cannot be loaded from a backend query, right? We don't have that option here. And that is because PocketBase is not natively supported by FlutterFlow. You also can't load it using this generate dynamic children's method, right? So if you come by here, you can't access that custom action, right? You can access a custom function, but you can't access the custom action. So how do you do it? Well, one way of doing it is that we need to query this data when the page loads, right? And then once we have that data, we can load it up, right? So we can simply go to home page, click here, and we can open this up, and on page load, we can do an action, right? So this action is going to be that custom action. So you can simply go down to custom actions, and we have this custom action called get list, and you can simply execute it, save the output variable here. So let's say this is a card list here. And once you have this action here and you have that output variable, you can go back to your list view and now you can load it here, right? So you can go to action outputs, card list, okay, confirm, and then you can do car item, click confirm. And now you have access to this data, right? So now you can fill in all the fields. Let's go ahead and center the row first. Let's click on this text right here. And now you can say, well, car item, data structure field, I want to display the brand and I want to display the model here. Okay. Now let's go ahead and run this app and let's see if it works. Let's just rename this homepage here and let's go ahead and execute this right here and hopefully it will work. Let's see. Now, when we run the app for the first time, we get an error here, right? We get this red screen of death and it's telling us unexpected null value, the relevant error causing widget was builder. And so why are we seeing this error? Well, the reason we are seeing this error is that when this app loads and it tries to display the page, we still haven't gotten the data from PocketBase. Okay, so this page is loaded and then we get the data, right? The data comes a little bit later. And that's typically how it is when you are accessing data somewhere else, right? You can't expect to have this data immediately, right? You need to act reactively, right? You need to be able to load your app and display all the pages, and only then, once you get the data, you need to rebuild the page automatically and display the data. And that is exactly what we need to do because, you know, displaying this data via this action here is just not going to work. And so the way that you do it is with state, right? And you can easily do that with app state or page state. And so here, what we can do is we can define page state because we're only dealing with this page here. And we can say we want to add a field, and what we're going to do is we're going to say car list as the name of this page state variable, and this page state variable is going to be a data type, card type. It's also going to be a list. And so this way, what's going to happen is once the data comes in, we are going to save it into page state. And once the page state is saved, this whole page is going to be automatically rebuilt with that new data. Okay, so here I'm going to click on confirm. And by the way, if you're interested in some of the amazing things that you can do with app state or page state to make your app a lot more reactive, I have a video right here that I'm going to link above. Definitely check it out. And so now that we have this page state variable defined, what we want to do on this action here, so when the page loads, we need to save that data into page state. Okay, so we're executing this get list, and the next thing we want to do is we want to save the output into page state. So I'm going to type page here, update page state. I'm going to select this card list, and you want to select set value because we're overriding the whole page state. Okay, and the value is this action outputs card list, confirm. Okay, and as you can see, once the data comes in and we're updating page state, we want to select rebuild current page. Okay, very, very important, because if you select no rebuild, it's not going to work. So you want to rebuild current page. And now displaying the actual data is going to come from page state instead of that output variable directly. Okay, so we're going to come here, select page state, car list, and that's it. And now car item, everything is the same. Everything's exactly how it was. So here I rename car list to car state. The variable is car state. And here it's car state, okay? And so now let's go ahead and reload our app and see if the data will show up correctly. So we can simply come in here, click reload, and now we are not seeing any errors. We're simply seeing a blank page, and that is probably because we don't have any data in our cars. Let's go ahead and add a new record. So let's say this is BMW M3. Price is, I don't know, 50,000, and the owner is just going to select James here, click create. Okay, so now we have this. Now let's go back here. Let's go ahead and reload our app, and hopefully it's going to display something. Okay, and there you see it, BMW M3, and this is directly from PocketBase using this native integration. And if you reload it, you're going to see that there's a slight delay because the page is displayed first and the data comes in a little bit later. And that is exactly how it works with, real production apps, right? And so what we need to do, and this is something we're going to be doing later, is we need to have some kind of a spinner or something like that. And that's very, very easy to do. We'll do that towards the end of this tutorial. But the most important thing, we're actually displaying the data. And we can also add another record here, right? Let's go ahead and add another car. Let's say this is Mercedes-Benz and the model is, I don't know, SLK or something like that. And the price is, I don't know, 60,000. And let's say Michael is the owner, right? Select, create. And now we have two cars here. Now we can go back here, simply reload the app. We don't even need to rebuild it, right? Because it needs to just fetch the new data. And we should see this new data. All right. And there you have it. So now we are seeing these two records here. Okay. So now we are sure that our connection works. Everything is fine. We can make this page more beautiful. We can put some of the nice design features to this page right here. All right, let's go back and let's make it a little bit nicer. Okay, so we have this list view, we have a row. Let's go ahead and wrap this row in a card. And let's say we want the page to look something like this. So an image, the name, some reviews, some extra features, and the price. So something similar to this, okay? So let's go ahead and do that right now. So we have a card here, and here I'm gonna wrap these in a column, and I'm gonna add an image. Okay, so now we have this image here. Let's go ahead and bring it up. So something like this, followed by the name, some more information, and the price. Okay, so let's go ahead and keep it fairly simple, and let's say we are gonna have the name right here, and let's maybe left justify it, something like this, and let's make the card, give it a little bit more padding. Okay, something like this. Okay, so something like this. Let's make this a little bit bigger, right? So maybe, so this is probably too big. Yeah, something, this is what, 22, let's make it 20. Okay, so something like this. Let's give the column a little bit of padding. Okay, that looks a little bit better now. So we have the car name. And so this is going to be the name, the brand, the model, and then maybe the price. So something, keep it a little bit more simple. And then I'm going to add another text. I'm going to duplicate this. And in fact, what I want to do is I'm going to add it on the column level. So somewhere around here. Okay. And this is going to be the price. So I'm going to give it a little bit of padding. And this will be the price right here. So we can simply click here, car item, data structure field, price, and we can also format it as price, right? Because it's a custom format, display as currency. Okay, so now we have the price right here, and we also want to make sure that, let's do a combine. Let me copy this. Let's do a combine here because we want the brand and the model. So we're gonna do a combine text here. We're gonna paste. This is the brand, and this is going to be the model. Paste this as well. The model, I'm also gonna add a space. So brand model, perfect. Okay, so that's the brand model, and this is the price, and this is going to be the image, the car image, and we don't have an image field yet, but we are also going to do it right now. Let's go ahead and create this image right here in this cars. Click here, edit collection, new field, and we are gonna have an image. You can have it as a URL. So this is an image here. Save changes, and now we have the image here in cars. So we can click on one of the cars, and we can have a URL for the image. Let me go ahead and find a Mercedes image. All right, so now we have the images for the Mercedes as well as the BMW. Now what we need to do is edit our car type, data type. Let's go ahead and add an image URL, and I'm going to do an image path here. Click create. And now if we go back to our custom action, we need to save this data here. So This is going to be image URL here. And what I'm going to do is get record, get string value, and we are going to get the image just called image. Okay, so we're going to do image here. Okay, click save just to double check. It's called image URL here. Okay, come back here. And now we have this image URL. And so now our card type is going to have this image right here that we're going to pull and display in our on our page. So let's go ahead and recompile this to make sure that it's all error free, that it's all legit. All right, it finished compiling. There are no errors, and we are ready to use this new custom function. So let's go ahead and link the images now. And the image, we can link it right here using path. We can say car item, data structure field, and we can use this image URL, confirm. Okay, so hopefully now it's going to be displaying the image as well. Let's go ahead and find out. Let's do an instant reload. All right, and there you see it. We have the images, we have the name. We are not displaying the price. We're gonna fix that as well. But at least the images are working, and it's a little bit nicer now, right? We still need to fix the padding here. Let's go ahead and fix this as well. We have the padding. The car padding is a little bit too much. Let's make it 10. Actually, we can even, okay, now it's a little bit better. Let's take a look at the image. Let's take a look at the price over here. And in fact, the reason we're not seeing the price is because we're not pulling the actual price. So we can do that right here. Price, and you can just price. There you have it. And for the price, we can just grab it as an integer value. You can also grab it as a double if you want, but I'm just going to simplify it as an integer. Now you want to recompile it because we made some changes with this code. And once it compiles, this new car record is going to have the price. So now we'll be able to access the price field in our UI. All right, it compiled perfectly. Let's go ahead and take a look at the app, and we can reload our app. And now it should hopefully display the price. All right, and there you see it. Now we have the price right here, listing perfect with the $sign and everything. Now, one thing that I want to display with each of these listings is the name of the person that's actually renting out the car. Okay, and so if we take a look at the schema, if we go back to cars, we have the owner right here. And remember, this is a relation to another table, right? And you can kind of hover over and you can get an idea of all the fields. Now with PocketBase, it's very, very easy to get this data that's connected via a relation. You do not need to create views like you would need to do in Supabase. You can get it all as part of that query. And so if we go back to our app here and we take a look at this custom action, what we can do is we can actually specify in this query here that we want to expand a relation, okay? And the way you do it is you go to the statement where you're getting your collection. So we're getting this get full list, and along with sorted, you need to type expand something. And what we're going to be expanding is the owner. And so what you want to do is you want to have expand owner right here, and that's going to expand that owner field. So instead of just having that owner ID there, it's going to expand that entire record and give you all the information that you need. Okay, so now we have the owner as well. And so now we can also add the owner's name to our car data type. So first we need to save it. And so if we go back to our car data type, we have this owner name here. And so if we go back here, we can actually add the owner name. And so now what we can do is we can say owner name, and we can pull that field from the expanded record and have it on our custom data type. Now, the way that you're getting these fields on a relational type is a little bit more complex as compared to the way that you're getting it on the actual field. And so what you need to do is you need to do something like this. You need to expand the owner here, right? We're getting this owner, and we need to get the various pieces of information that we have on the owner. So with the owner, if you hover over this owner here, as you can see, there's a name there. I can't quite hover over it because this is going to disappear. But if you take a look at this pop-up here, this hover, you're going to see name is James NoCode. And that's what we want. We want that name there. So if we go back here, we can just get the name right here. Let's go ahead and rebuild this custom action here. And when everything is said and done, not only are we going to have that car type that we are listing with the fields that are on car type, but we're also going to be getting that related field, which is the owner field in this case. we're going to be getting the owner's name here using this special convention here. All right, this function compiled without any errors. And before we're going to reload the app to see the new field, we need to add that new field. So where do we want to display owner? Well, it doesn't really matter where we're going to be displaying it. I'm just going to display it here on the right hand side. So we have the owner, and I'm going to center it like this. And so this is going to be the owner here. You can obviously display it anywhere that you want. The most important thing is actually having access to that data. Okay, so now I'm going to come back here. I'm going to do car item, data structure field, and I'm going to select owner name. And let's go ahead and run our app. And hopefully we're going to see the owner as well. All right. And here's the app. And as you can see, we are now seeing the actual owner here. Okay. So you see Michael is the owner of this Mercedes-Benz. James is the owner of this BMW. And if you go back here, this is the BMW, and we hover over, we see James NoCode, and we see Michael here. And so this is a really nice thing about PocketBase, is that it allows us to quickly and easily get relationship data. And you can go fairly deep with this, right? You can get, the owner, and then if the owner has another relationship field, you can get that field and then another field. I believe it's actually 6 levels of depth. So you can go fairly deep with your relations, and this makes it super easy to get started, get working, because you do not need to create any of the views that you typically need when you're working with a relational database. All right, so now we have our simple homepage here. The next thing that I want to do is I want to create a detail page to show more information, as well as the ability to create a booking. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that right now. Let's create a new page here. This is going to be called a detail page. In fact, let's click on content, and we can use one of these pages here. How about this page right here for the detail page? Okay, and this is our detail page. I'm going to rename this just the home page here. All right, this is our detail page. Now for the detail page, you want to be asking yourself how you're going to be getting the data, right? Where's the data going to come? There are many, many ways of doing it, but the best and easiest way of doing it with our current setup with PocketBase is by passing them as page parameters. So I'm going to define a bunch of page parameters here. So things like the brand, which is a string, the model is going to be here, which is a string. And I also want to define the ID, right? This is the car ID that we also need to pass, which is going to be a string as well. This ID right here we're passing. And that's about it for now. And also the image as well. So like the image URL. Okay, so I'm going to be passing that as well, image path here, and I'm going to click on confirm. So we're passing a bunch of variables that we can display on this page. Okay, and so now that we have these variables, at least we have access to these variables, let's go ahead and fix up this page. So I can say book car rental here, and this is going to be our image path. Image URL. This is the name of the car. This is going to be the brand and the model maybe. So I'm just going to put the model right now. And this may be the brand. And this is description. I'm going to remove this. And I'm also going to have maybe the person here, right? So instead of a bunch of these containers, I'm just going to have one person. And we're going to have the name of the person. So let's go ahead and have the, let's pass the name of the person here as well. Okay, let's add a parameter. That's the name, owner name. And that's going to be a string. And we can also pass the owner image as well. But we're not storing images right now. You can do that the same way here. I'm just going to do the name, and now you can type owner name. Okay, so now we have the owner name, and here it says reserve spot. I'm just going to change it to reserve rental, reserve. I'm just going to put reserve, and looks good. Looks really, really good. Let's now create a link. So if they click on this card, we're going to do navigation, navigate to detail. Okay, now you need to pass all of this information. The brand here, data structure field, brand. And I'm going to copy this just to save ourselves some time. Model, I'm just going to do this, paste, model, confirm. This is the car ID. We're going to do that in a second. Image URL, the owner name, paste, owner name. Okay, so now we have that. Now for the car ID, we need to be able to store car ID on the record. We don't have that, so I'm going to go in here and I'm going to add the car ID so that we have this information. It's going to be a string, and we also need to add it using this custom action. I'm going to do a car ID, and this is simply going to be a record ID. That's it. We don't need to get anything else. Save, and let's recompile this. All right, there are no issues, no problems. Now let's go ahead and display the ID just to make sure that we're getting it and having it correctly, right? Because we're not going to be displaying ID, we're simply going to be passing it, and we're going to be using it later on, but I want to make sure that we actually are displaying it correctly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another text field right here, let's say here, and I want to display this ID. So I'm going to come back here, car item, data structure field, and I'm going to say this car ID, and I want to make sure that we actually are getting it correctly. Let's go ahead and reload this right here. All right, and there you see the ID, right? You see the name and the ID right here, and this ID right there. Okay, so it starts with KQ, ends in D3. So if we go back here, we should see this ID KQ D3. So as you can see, we're able to successfully pull the ID and display it as well. So now we don't need to display it anymore. We can just remove it, but we know we have it. And so now we can also pass it. So we're going to go back to card, get this car ID, and we're going to come back here, data structure field, car ID, confirm. Okay, so now we're passing all of these things to the detail page, and now on the detail page we have access to all of this. Okay, so in fact we can display it again if you want. Maybe not a bad idea. Let's display it just to make sure that we have it. Car ID right here. You can make it even maybe smaller font, so it's there. We have the car model, car ID, owner name. Okay, and we have the reserve. Okay, so let's go ahead and reload the app. Make sure that our list detail flow works correctly. All right, let's go ahead and click on this, and we are redirected. We see all the details, and it says here Michael, here it says James, no code. We see the ID. So this works. The detail page works. The flow works. If we had the image here, the avatar, we could also have displayed it here. And so if we come back here, we have an avatar field, but it's empty. So if I go to users and I go to Michael, I click here, we have the avatar field. So if you upload a new image, it's going to be available there and we'll be able to list it. But that's for later, right? It's not a critical feature right now. All right, so now we have the detail page working as expected. All right, the next thing that I want to work on is this reservation flow. Okay, so they're going to see this detail page here. They're going to click here, and we're going to create a new record in this bookings collection. Okay, so we have no records here right now, and so essentially it's a process where we're going to take this car here that they're browsing, this offer, and we're going to turn it into a booking here. Okay, so if we come over here, they're going to pick the dates. We need to add those fields as well, and along with the dates, along with the car, everything together, that's going to create this booking record here. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So the first thing I want to do is I want to create a flow for the dates, right? I want to create an area for the dates. And the way that we're going to be selecting dates is by using a calendar widget. And so what I want to do is I want to create another row here where we are going to have the from date and the to date, and we're going to have a pop-up, calendar pop-up that's going to select the dates. And along with all of that information, we're going to create this reservation. Okay, so first let's create a row for the dates. Okay, so inside this row, we are going to have two dates, two text fields that are gonna display the dates that when they click on it, it's going to select this specific calendar widget, right? So I'm gonna duplicate this. We're gonna align it something like this, and this is going to be the from date, and this is going to be the to date. And in fact, we can do something like this: select start, and this is select end. And the idea here is they're gonna click here, it's gonna pop up the calendar widget here. They're gonna select the date, and this is going to replace the date, and they're gonna do the same thing here. And for this to work, we need to create page state variables that we're going to replace these with. So we're gonna say date here, and this is going to be this date time, and let's end date. This is going to be date time as well. Confirm. Okay, next I want to select these from page state, start date here, and same thing, end date. I'm gonna say and they confirm. Okay, so now we have that. So now when they click on it, we're going to display a pop-up calendar. And before we can display it, we need to create the actual component. Okay, so we're going to go back here. We're going to create a new component, and I want a calendar. I don't have a calendar, so let's create a blank component here, calendar. And I'm going to add this right here, calendar here. And now we can use this as our component. Okay, so that way when they select it, we're going to see what they picked, and we're going to use that. So let me go ahead and configure this real quick. I want to do start on Monday. We can do a week view. No, we don't need a week view. We want something like this. And now what we can do is we can have a flow. So on date selected, we can save the state, right? So we can do add an action. And what we want to do is we want to do this page state. Unfortunately, we don't have access to page state. So if we go into state management, we no longer have access to that page state. And so we can use app state, or we can use component state here. The problem is that if we use component state, we won't be able to access it from that page. And so the only option we have is app state. And that kind of makes sense because we're using a component, and that's not, technically the same page. And so let's go ahead and change that to use app state here. So we're going to delete this page state here, and instead we're going to be using app state. So I'm going to come in here, and we're going to create two variables. Okay, we're going to say start date booking, which is this date and time, and another one is end date book. Date and time, create. Okay, and now if we come back here, we're going to load these from not page state, but app state. So this is start date booking, start date, and this is going to be end date booking. Confirm, confirm. And now we have this app state linked to it. And so if they click on this, we're going to open this up, and that's going to open up that calendar. And in fact, we can do that right now. We can say on tap, we can do show bottom sheet, select calendar component, and we have this component here. And let's do that. And then when they select it, when they click here and select it, we're going to have that component. And then that component here, it's going to pop up, and they're going to select the date. We're going to update the state. So over here, we're going to open this up. And here, when they click on date selected, we're going to update app state. Update app state. And this is the start date. We're going to set the value, widget state, calendar selected date. You can just use start. And here, you want to rebuild the containing page, right? Because you want to update that state there. And so now we have the start date hopefully working. We also want to make sure that we close it. And so you want to do close, bottom sheet dismiss. That's exactly what you want to do. All right. And let me double check if everything is fine. Check out our warnings. Let's set a default value here. Okay. Now we have a default value. No issues, no problems. Let's go ahead and run this app, and let's test out this start date booking flow if it works. All right, so here's the app. Let's say we pick this one right here. Now we have this date. Okay, so we have this date configured. If I click here, we have a pop-up, and now I can pick any date. So let's say I pick 11, and now it's set to 11/11. Let's say I pick 30th, and now it's set to 11:30. We still need to format it. We don't really need the time, just the date, but really it kind of works. It still needs to close itself, but we can do that a little bit later. But as you can see, the flow looks really, really good. Let's go ahead and fix it up a little bit so that we don't really need the dates. We can do date time format, and so we can just display something like this, and the same thing here, display something like this, nice and clean. And that's only going to display the date components that we need right here. Now, let's go ahead and do the same thing, the same action for the second one, for the end date as well. You can just do the end date here, open this, and we want to paste this here. Okay, and that's going to pull up this calendar comp, and it's also going to set the dates. Now, because we're using the same component for start and end, it's a good idea to pass a parameter so that the component knows whether to update, that one or that one. Okay, so let's go ahead and add a parameter for this component. I'm going to add a parameter, and so let's say this is going to be start and boolean. Okay, so if its start date is true, then we're working with start date. Otherwise, we are working with end date. Okay, I'm going to say confirm. And now over here, what we can do is we can see, do we want to selected day start, or do we want to do the end date, right? We can come in here, and what we can do is we can even have a conditional value. So if component start date is true, then we want to work with start date, right? So we want to use widget state calendar start date, app state start date, okay? Otherwise, we want to use app state end date. Very, very nice and clean. And we have a condition. No further changes, confirm. Okay. So now, depending on the parameter that we're passing, we're going to be updating different app state. Remember, this is app state here. Okay. So we're going to come back and we need to pass a parameter now. Okay. So over here, we're going to be passing a parameter. Okay. So right here, the parameter. So this is start date. So start date is true. Here, this is start date is false. Okay, false. Perfect. All right, there's the app. Click here. This pops up. Let's say we pick another date. Looks like it's not changing. Let's double check what's going on. Now, if we go to the component and we click on the action, and the problem here is we are always updating start date when we need to have a condition. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a conditional and I'm going to move this down. In fact, I'm going to copy this, and this conditional will depend on whether we're passing start date or end date. So start date is true. We need to move this here. Okay. Paste it, and we need to paste it here. We want to delete this. And now if start date is true, we need to do start date booking, but we no longer need this. We can delete all this and we can just set it to widget state. That's it. And so now we can copy this and paste it in here. And here we can delete this and we can now do end booking here, set value, and we want to do widget state, calendar selected date, start. Okay. And so now if start date is true, we're doing start date booking. If it's false, we're doing end date booking. That is the way to do it. Let's go ahead and reload the app and see if that fixed it. All right, select the car and we have this. Let's say we put 15 and now we see 15. Let's say we pick 24 and now we see 24 here. Okay, so the picker works correctly. Okay, it's not dismissing itself, and I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to make it dismiss. But another thing that I want to do for the component here is I want to fix it up a little bit. I want to do a little bit of padding to it. Let's do a little bit of padding. So maybe something like this. And let's see what else that we can do to it. We can wrap it in another container. Let's do something like this. Okay, now it's starting to look a little bit better. Okay, okay, that's perfect. That looks a little bit better. We can also expand it. Okay, so something like this. And what we can do is we can wrap this inside of a column, and then we can add a button. So maybe something like this, and this button could be just okay. Maybe make it a little bit bigger, something like this, and maybe this button we can do it dismiss. Or maybe make it a little bit wider, so something like this. Okay, let's go ahead and reload our app, see how that looks. All right, there's the app. Click here. Okay, that looks a lot better. I really like this flow. We just need to fix it up, and that's actually easy to fix. It's this column. This column is taking up a lot of space. It should not take up this much space. We can give it a little bit of padding to something like this. Okay, now it should be fine. Okay, so now this column needs to take the minimal amount of space. Okay, let's see how this looks. Let's reload this, because otherwise it's taking up the maximum amount of space, and that's why you see that blank space on the bottom. All right, there's the app. Click here, select this, and now it's much better. You see, now it's only taking up this part here. So I want 10. Okay, now this is 10. Let's say I want 30. Okay, now it's 30. Okay, this flow works perfectly. The next thing we need to do is we need to save it, right? We have all the data, we just need to save it. And how do we do that? Well, the same way that we're pulling data. We need to create another custom action. Let's go ahead and create another custom action. We're gonna say custom action. We're gonna say, okay, save booking, click here, copy editor. Now let's think about what we want to pass and what we want to get back. We really don't need to get back anything, right? It's just to save things, but we need to pass arguments, and the argument that we're going to be passing is going to be our card type, right? Because this card type becomes essentially the booking. So it's card type plus the, the from date and the to date, the start and the end date. So two arguments, right? This is going to be this card type, and this is this card type. I'm just going to say card type, and then two more arguments, which is the from date and the to date, because it kind of makes sense, right? We're booking this specific card, from this date to this date, right? So start date, we're just gonna do start date, date and time, okay? And we don't need to make it nullable because these are required. And so now if you click on this, we can copy all of this. And now we have this populated here. We're not gonna be returning anything. It's not needed, at least right now, I don't think so. We can save it. And now what we need to do is we need the actual code for this. And so if we go back to PocketBase, click on bookings and click on API preview, click on create. This is what we need to be doing, right? So we're going to copy all of this, come back here, paste it in here, except this import should be just outside the function. Formatted, there it is. Okay, we're connecting to it. We also need that pop spec dependency as well that we can get from the other custom action. But all we're really doing is we're filling up this new record that we're going to be creating, this body here, right? And so this is going to be this car, the renter, from and to. We need all of this information, and in this case we don't need the all the details. We just need the ID, right? So in fact, this car type, we don't need to pass on the car type, right? We just need the ID, right? The ID of the car, right? So we can just say car is the ID, renter is the authenticated user, which we're gonna get via authentication, the record ID from and to. So right now we can simply get the from and to. So we can just simply display the start date here and the end date. All right, so here I have my from date and my to date formatted. And for the purpose of this illustration, let's go ahead and add a random car ID just to make sure that things work as expected. So we're going to come back here and go to cars here, and I'm going to select this ID here and I'm going to put it in here. Obviously, when the app is running, we're going to be passing the correct ID, but I just want to make sure things work. And the renter is going to be the user, the authenticated user that we're going to have. So I'm going to come back here, select the user, and let's say the renter is Michael. So I'm going to select this ID right here and paste it in here. Okay, so now we have a custom action that is going to save a new booking for this car, for this renter, for a specific from date and the to date. Okay, and in fact, I'm going to remove this car type because we don't really need it. We need the start date, the end date, and we don't really need the car type anymore. So I'm going to remove that, save it. Okay, so now we have a new custom action, save booking. Now we also need to add the dependency as well. Let's go ahead and do that. Go to get list, copy this dependency, save booking, add this dependency, click save. And now let's go ahead and compile it and see if there are any issues. All right, we compiled it with no issues as well. And now we are ready to test it out. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here, click on detail, and now we're going to attach this to this button here. Okay, so add an action, custom action, save booking, and we need to pass the dates. And we have the dates, right? They're in app state. So we're going to go to our app state, start date, confirm, end date booking, confirm. Okay, so now we have this custom action that's going to be triggered when we click on this button. Let's go ahead and run our app and let's see if it's actually saving the new booking with the fixed data that we're going to change once everything that works. All right, here's our app again. Click here, let's pick the dates. Let's say 8. Okay, let's say 30th. Okay, and let's click on reserve and let's see if it worked. Come back here, bookings, and there we have it. We have a new booking. We have the car ID. We have the renter, who's Michael. We also have 11:07 to 11:29, and this is a time zone thing because it's in UTC. So everything works. Everything works perfectly. Okay, so now what's left here is to pass the car as a parameter. And we also need to pass the renter as a parameter. We can pass the car right now. The renter we're going to pass when we do the authentication. So let's come back here, save booking. Let's add the car ID, and this is going to be a string, and let's go ahead and add it right here, string, save this, no issues. And now we just need to pass this car ID to our custom action. Okay, so let's come back here, and now we have this car ID, and we have the car ID as a page parameter, so we can send it to this custom action. And now we have a custom action. The only thing that's left is the authentication that we need to complete. That way we can pass the user ID as well. Okay, so now this works, except we need to do the authentication, and let's go ahead and do authentication next. Let's go ahead and set up custom authentication with PocketBase here, because we need to know who is the currently logged in user. And for that, If you go back to PocketBase documentation here, if you can click on users and go to API preview, you will see various ways that you can authenticate, right? So you can do auth with password, you can do auth 2, refresh, etc., etc. But typically what you want to be doing is you want to be executing this right here. And when you execute this, you're going to get something like this. You're going to get a token and the record if everything is fine. Or if the authentication is not correct, you're going to be getting this 400 failed to authenticate. Okay. And so what we need to do is we need to create a GET request, an API call to this. We need to get this token. And then for subsequent requests, we're going to be sending this token. Okay. So before we do that, let's go ahead and create a login page here so that the user can successfully authenticate. And we're going to be using one of the templates here. I think this one is fine. I'm just going to say login here, and we're going to do this login page here. Next thing you want to do is you want to go into settings, and you want to go to authentication. You want to enable authentication, but you want to select custom authentication. So here you want to select your entry page. Logged in page is the home page. Now you also want to associate the data type. We're going to create this custom data type that we can use throughout our app. So let's do that right now. Let's do a user type. And what kind of information do we want to store? Well, we need the user ID, the user email, the username. For now, I think that's it. Username, user ID, string, and username, string. Oh, the email as well. Email. Let's do email. So we have name. Let's put that first. ID, name, email. That's it, I think. We'll add them later, okay? So now we can go back here and we can associate this user type here, okay? The next thing that you want to do is you want to configure this login page to use this custom authentication. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select login here. I'm going to delete all this because we don't really need it. Take a look at this. Forget password. We don't really need this. And this sign in is going to do the API call, get the token, and log in using custom authentication. I actually have a video that I'm going to be displaying right there that's going to explain to you the entire process when it comes to this amazing FlutterFlow feature called custom authentications. Now for the sign on button, we're going to open our flow editor, and what we want to do is we want to execute the API call, get the token, and only then do we want to custom authenticate them, right? So we're going to add another action here, and this action is going to do the API call. Okay, so first let's go ahead and define our API here. API call is going to be login, and what we're going to do is we're going to log them in using their provided username and password, or email and password. And once we log him in, we're going to get this authentication token. So let's come back here and let's click on users, API preview, and you want to do auth with password, right? You want to scroll down, and this is what you want to do. You want to do a post, identity, and password right here. So let's do that. This is going to be a post, and we want to link to our instance here, and our instance is available here. Come back here, paste this here, and now we have the whole URL here, but we need to send the body. The body is going to be JSON, and if you take a look here, you see the body is identity and password. That's what we need to send. So come back here, identity. Okay. Now, before we can do that, let's just save it. We need the variables, right? So we're going to add a variable called identity, which is a string save, and we're going to get those values from the page, string save body. And now we can just drag and drop these right here and drag and drop these right here. Okay, save. We can also format it, and now we can define the headers. Okay, so for the headers, you always want to be doing content type application JSON. Okay, save that. We have the body, we have the variables. Let's go ahead and try this out. So we're going to do response and test. So I'm going to do james@james.com, and I believe password is just James test. And here it says fail to authenticate. So maybe I did not provide the right password. Let's go back to users. Click here. Let's change the password. Oh, yes. For the password, I generated the password. So let me change it to James. James, click save. And it's telling me the length between 8 and 72. So let's do James and James. James, save. Okay, now let's try this out. James, test API call, and 200 success. Okay. So we have successfully authenticated, and we're getting all of these things. Now, what I want to do is I want to capture this token right here because we're going to need it, right? And I also want to capture some other information. So I'm going to click on recommended, and I'm going to save this token. I'm going to get the name, the ID, the email, the username as well. Come back here. This is my auth token. This is the name, ID, email, username. Okay, click save, and now this API call is complete. And now we can go back here and click here, and now we can have this API call being executed before we can log him in. So we're gonna say log in, and now you can define all the variables here. We just need two variables, identity and password, and we can get them from the page, right? So this is widget state. So let's go ahead and define this. This is email address. I'm going to say input email. This is input password. And so now when they sign in, we can execute them. This is identity and this is password. And now let's go ahead and find them. Widget state, input email, and you can just type it, input password. So now we can execute the API call, and we also need to create a condition. Add a conditional, and the condition is going to be if we are, if we're successful or not. So we're going to say auth result from the API call, and here we're going to say auth result. API response succeeded. Okay, if it succeeded, we can log them in. Copy action, paste action, we can delete it. And if it's not succeeded, we can do like an information dialog. Okay, and we can say not authenticated or something like this. Okay, all right, now let's go ahead and run our app, and hopefully we're going to be greeted with a login screen, right? Because now our app is locked up behind authentication, right? Now you need to be authenticated to see all the pages. Okay, let's go ahead and rebuild our app. All right, this is our app, and if we go into login, we can hopefully log in. So if I click on sign in, it says failure not authenticated, right? Because I didn't put anything here. And if I type something random, james.james.com, and if I put just James, which is incorrect, I should get an error, failure not authenticated. And if I type James, I should hopefully log in. And now we're in the home page, and we are seeing all the offers. Okay, there's still another thing that we need to do before we are, complete with our authentication, is we need to make sure that we're setting the right fields, right? So if I go to auth login, you want to set a lot of these things that we are going to be using. So like authentication token, I'm going to set it right here, and you can simply go to action outputs, click here, JSON body here, and you want to do JSON path, and you want to get your auth token, because you want to have it on your app. And you can also save user data here, create data type, user type, and you can add all the fields, user ID, you can use action outputs, JSON body, and here you can select JSON path, ID. You're going to add another field here, and this is going to be username. So action auth output, auth result, you're gonna do JSON body, JSON path, username. Next we have user email, and let's do result, JSON body, JSON path, and we're gonna do email, and that's it. Now you can click on confirm, and now we've created this user data type that's going to be around as the user is using the app. So it's going to be available everywhere. It's like app state. Essentially, it's exactly what it is, right? It's in a way, it's a type of state that's going to be around as you're using the app. All right, so now we are done with authentication. We can start using the actual user ID in our app. And so if we go to the detail page and you click on this button that's going to be triggered when they want to create a new reservation, we are going to have access to the logged in user. We're going to have their user ID. And so at this point, we can change that auth action, and we can add the specific user there, right? So we can come in here and we can say string auth user ID. This is the authenticated user. I can add another argument over here, string auth user ID. Okay, also not nullable because we have it saved. And now you want to make sure that these variables are going to be here. So this car ID, you want to make sure that it's here. And the renter, we're going to have auth user ID, right? Save that there. And all we need to do is pass the correct variables. We are passing car ID, I believe. And now we can just pass the auth user ID here. See, car ID is being passed. And now if we click here, we have this authenticated user, and we have this user data fields. We have a lot of stuff that we can use. So we can just pass the user ID here. And now let's go ahead and run our app, and let's make sure everything works. Custom widgets need to be compiled. Let's go ahead and compile them. Now let's go ahead and reload our app. All right, there's the app. Let's go ahead and log in. All right, we have successfully logged in. Come back here, and let's say this time I want to book this BMW M3. And so I decide I want it for these dates, let's say from 10 to the 25th. Okay. and I click reserve. Let's see if that works. Come back here, bookings, and we have a new booking, okay? And this is that second booking here from the 9 to 24. And this, like I said, is a time zone issues. The date and the times are absolutely correct. And as you can see, the renter is James NoCode, and this is my authenticated user. We have the car, KQ, and if I hover over, you can see that that is the BMW. And the renter is my authenticated user. This is the user that I'm logged in as, okay? And so as you can see, now we have the feature where the user books the specific car for specific dates. It is now successfully tied to the authenticated user as well. Next, I want to create a confirmation page that the user sees after they click that button. So when they click on this button, we want to redirect them to the confirmation page. Let's go ahead and create a new page, create blank confirmation, and let's go ahead and add maybe there's something available. Content views, no, nothing available. So this is going to be a fairly simple page. Confirmation, we're going to do a text, and we're going to center this maybe. No, we're going to do a padding from the top, like 50, and we're going to center it using a row, center the row, increase the font, and we're going to say your reservation or reservation confirmed. Okay, so something like this, maybe more, maybe 100, something like this. And there we have it, and it looks good. Maybe make it a little bit black like that. Confirmation confirm. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, that looks better. So something like this, something easy. You can pass parameters to it. You can pass dates. You can pass anything that you want. In fact, why don't we display a date? Let's do another text here. I'm going to do it below it. And I'm going to do a little bit of padding. And confirmation confirmed. I'm just going to display the start date. Okay. And for that, we need to pass a parameter, start date. This is going to be this date time required. And here, I'm just going to do start date. And we're going to format it. Date time format. Okay. Tuesday, November 7th, something like that. Okay. And now from the detail, this is going to save the booking and it's going to do navigation to the confirmation. And we're going to pass the start date. We are going to be passing this start date right here as app state, right? Something like this. And in fact, we don't even need to pass it, right? We can get it from the app state. So why don't we just do that? We don't need to pass it. This is just because we're using app state for our, date. So I'm gonna do app state, start date. Okay, and let's remove that parameter here. All right, there you have it. Confirmation confirmed. We can even do it on the end date, right? So here, I'm just gonna copy this, do a combine, do this, paste, and this is going to be something like this. Okay, so now we have, from date to date. Okay, from app state. All right, so that is now confirmed. We have the confirmation page. Let's go ahead and run it and see if it works as expected. All right, there's the app. And as you can see, we have already logged in, so we don't need to log in again. And let's go ahead and delete these bookings right now so that we know which ones are created from the app. And so we can go back here and let's say we want this BMW M3. And let's say I want it on these dates, right? So I'm going to select 7 to 23, hit reserve. And now it says reservation confirmed. And Tuesday, November to Thursday, November 23. Come back here and we have the bookings. Let's go ahead and reload this. And there's the booking, right? That's 06 to 11:22, right? Okay. So as you can see, we have the flow working correctly. It's able to create these records. Everything is fine. The next thing that I want to do is I want to create a screen where they see my bookings. So essentially the bookings that they made that belong to them. Remember, we're storing the user there, so we only want to display the bookings for that specific user. But before I do that, I also want to create a nav bar. So let's go ahead and create a nav bar. Nav bar, turn this on, and then let's go ahead and create the nav bar. So we need the nav bar for the home page. Come back here, show nav bar. And so the nav bar is going to have links to the home page, but also links to the trips page. And so for the trips page, what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate the home page. It's going to be very similar. Call it trips. And here we're going to list all the trips, right? So I'm going to click on this, change the navbar icon, maybe trips, something like this. Let's try airplane. Yeah, airplane looks good. So something like this, right? We can list all the trips, but we can make sure that there is a condition that the bookings are only visible to the person that made it, right? So the first thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that we are listing the right data, right? So if we come over here, remember we have this condition, we have this action that's getting this get list, right? And if we go to this get list custom action, what we are doing here is we are getting the cars. So we need to create a new custom action that gets the booking. So I'm going to say duplicate, and I'm going to call the second one that we just duplicated get bookings. And what we want to do instead of cars, we want to get bookings here. Okay. We're also going to change the name here to get bookings. Now this function here is going to look at bookings collection, and it's going to get all the bookings that are linked to the authenticated user. And you can do this using a special filter, and you can add this filter right here. And now we have a special filter that looks at this renter ID, and it's trying to compare to a specific ID that we're going to be passing as a parameter. And so now this custom action needs to have an ID being passed to it, this authentication user ID, right? So we're going to come back here. We're going to say auth user ID, which is a string. And now you can simply click here, take a look at how it's defined. Is this ID right here, and you can paste it in here. Okay, save this. And now you can use this auth ID when you are searching for a specific user, right? So you can easily do that here. Okay, so now we have this filter where we are checking renter ID for this auth user that we are going to be passing as a parameter to this custom function. The next thing we need to do is we need to expand this renter, because if you recall on bookings, we have this renter field. Okay, so that's what we need to expand. And the next thing we want to expand is this renter right here. And then if you hover over this renter here, you can see that it's the same thing, right? Name, ID, username, and that is exactly what we're doing here. We're just pulling up the name here. And this name is going to be part of that response here. Now, if we also want to display the car, we need to expand the car as well, because on bookings, we only have these relationships, right? We have the renter and we have the ID and the car ID. So we need to expand all of these relationships, right? So we're going to come back here and we want to expand the car as well, right? So we have the car and the renter. We need to expand both of these, and then we can pull up the various information that we need. So right now we're getting the renter's name, but we can also pull up the car model as well, the car image, etc., etc. Now we are using this car custom data type. We can create a new data type called booking type, or we can simply reuse this one for now just for testing. So I'm going to save this here, and I'm just going to reuse this one here and see if the rest of the function works. Let's go ahead and test if the function is valid. All right, the function compiles without any issues whatsoever. And now we can try to use this custom action when displaying our bookings. Of course, we need to pass this auth user ID as well. So let's go back here. Let's go to our trips. And now let's go ahead and see how we're calling this custom action. We need to use get bookings, and we need to pass the auth user ID right here. This is what we have, and this is going to be booking list. Booking list is the output, and we can also use this page state as well. Action output booking list, and we're setting this booking list, and then we're obviously going to be displaying it, right? So this whole thing is going to be displayed from this booking list. So we have car state, booking list here, confirm. This is booking item, confirm. And now let's take a look and see if it's properly, yeah, booking item. This is all should be booking item, and this should be trips. Okay, so now let's go ahead and see if it works. We have it here in our nav bar. Let's go ahead and create a new session here to test out our new feature here, the trips page. All right, so here's our app. If we click on bookings, we are seeing an error, and then the error goes away, and we are seeing one item here, right? And this is the only booking that we have in the system, and this is my booking here. So I am the renter, and that is why I'm seeing this here. Now we need to fix a couple of issues here, the images, the price, etc., etc. We need to fix that up, and we also need to see why we are seeing that error there. Now, to fix this issue, I'm gonna change some of the variables on the strips page. This is gonna be booking state, and let's take a look at what's happening here. User ID, we have booking list, and we are updating booking state with the booking list, rebuilding current page. That's fine, and this thing gets the booking list, booking item, and the reason we have this issue is because this thing gets it directly from the action output when it needs to get it from the page state. So we're gonna go to this page state, booking state, confirm, and now it should have no issues. Okay, so now let's go ahead and reload our app. All right, this is the initial page. Now if we click on the strips page, we're no longer seeing that error. We're still seeing this thing here, but we're no longer seeing that red issue, right? Come back over here. Come back over here, no errors, just this thing. Let's fix this up real quick to make sure that it's displayed correctly. We have the image that's not being displayed, we have the name that's being displayed, and we have the price. So this price over here is the price here, and that price is not being set correctly, right? So if we come back over here to our custom action and get bookings here, the price is being set directly when in fact the price needs to be gotten from the car. Okay, so what we need to do here is this brand here, everything needs to be gotten from the car, right? So it's not directly anymore. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do something like this. Renter, this is car brand, this is car model, this is price right here, this is should be int, get int value, and this is the image. Okay, so let's fix this. This is car image URL, and this is going to be string. Okay, car. In fact, we can just call this price here because we're setting it to price, and the image URL is going to be next. Image URL right here, and this should work because now we are expanding not only the renter but the car as well. So let's go ahead and save this, and let's go ahead and rerun it, and hopefully it should display the correct information. All right, there's the app. Click on trips. And now we have the trip mostly loading correctly. We still don't have the image, but we have all the other information. Okay, let's go ahead and fix the image there so that we have the image URL being loaded, get string value, and we have the image right here. Car image URL. Did I specify that correctly? Let's come in here. It's just image. I put image URL. It's just image. So if I do that, recompile, now it's going to display it correctly. All right, there we have it. Let's go ahead and reload this, and hopefully the image will be displayed. All right, there's the app. Click here and we see the image. Okay, so now we see that booking that I created. We can also display the dates if we want. We have access to all of that information, but the most important thing is I want to make sure I'm only seeing this right here, and for that I need to log out and log back in as somebody else. And for that, we need to create a profile page that's going to be displayed right here where I can log out and see who I am logged in as. So let's come back over here. Let's create a new profile page that's going to be displayed on the navbar. We're going to be using these settings. So maybe something simple like this. Profile here. This is our profile page. And here I'm going to display the name, authenticated user, not username. I think it's just name. Yeah, username. That's fine. And this is user email. Just type email, user email. And this logout is, well, it's going to be a logout, right? So custom logout. Okay, that's going to log me out. And we want to make sure that this is on the navbar. So we want to display it on the navbar, and that's fine. The icon is good. Let's go ahead and reload the app. All right, here's the app. I go to the profile page and I see my James and my email. And here I can log in as somebody else and see the specific bookings or trips for this specific account. Let's go ahead and log in as maybe Robert. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the password, change password. Just gonna put raw. Okay, save this. All right, let's go back and let's go ahead and log in as Robert. What's that? Let me take Robert, rob.com. All right, I'm logged in as Robert. And if I click here, I do not see anything. I have no trips. Right, that filter is filtering everybody out, right? So if I click here, you see I'm Robert. Okay, and if I click here, there's nothing here. There's because that query returns an empty string. And if I click here, I can create a booking. So let's say I want this booking, hit reserve, it's confirmed. And now if I go into trips, I should see that one booking, and I see this booking right here, and I see my name here. And that is because I have this one booking. So if we go back here to bookings, we have two bookings, one for Robert, one for James, and each person can only see their own bookings. All right, so there's an example of an app that you can build with PocketBase. And like I mentioned, the biggest challenge with building apps with PocketBase is that it's not supported natively by FlutterFlow. And so you either need to be using APIs or this native method that I showed you in today's video. And I definitely prefer this native method, because that way you're not creating a bunch of APIs, you're simply working with custom actions. And that's what really custom actions are designed to do. They're designed for you to create your own custom methods, custom code that you can use inside of actions. And these actions could be just about anything, but typically an action is something that happens as a result of the user doing something with the app. They're not like custom functions that happen in the background, right? Custom actions are anything that happens when you load a page, click on something, save something, update, delete, anything of that nature. You know that you're dealing with actions. And in this case, you can simply create a bunch of custom actions like I showed you that will do various things. So they can list things, they can list items, they can update an item, they can delete an item, anything that you want, you can do with these custom actions and this native method with PocketBase. But overall, I gotta say, I really, really like PocketBase. It's very, very lightweight. It's free. It's open source. It's very, very easy to get it hosting, to have your own custom hosting instance, self-hosting. Very, very easy. Very, very simple. And they make a lot of operations very easy. So like I showed you, you can have that relational stuff pulled in back into your query, right? That is something that's kind of complicated to do with Supabase. You need to create a separate view with the exact data that you need, whereas here you don't need to create the view. You can pull it relationally, and you can also create views if you want, right? So if you come back over here and you do new collection, guess what? You can create a view and you can base that view with a SQL query, right? So if you want to create a view with just the data that you need, kind of that Supabase method, you can do this as well. Or you can just skip views and use this relational functionality that I was using in this app. So a great, great backend. I know many of you really, really liked PocketBase when I initially showed it to you guys and created a bunch of videos with it. And here I'm finally showing you how you can create an app and connect to PocketBase using this native functionality. And obviously you can create any kind of app that you want with PocketBase, from very, very simple to very, very complex. And so definitely let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Do you like PocketBase? Do you like Supabase? Do you like Firebase? I want to hear what you guys think. But most importantly, if you're going to be building any kind of apps, whether they're PocketBase, Supabase, or anything else, you definitely need to join our amazing Patreon community. Because when you join our amazing Patreon community, you're going to get access to all the apps that I publish on this channel. And that means you can easily view and or clone any of the apps that I build. And that's going to give you a head start. You'll be able to see exactly what I'm doing. And as they say, practice makes perfect. And you're going to be practicing with the apps that I'm building instead of starting from scratch and reinventing the wheel. And so this is a great, great way to get a head start, level up your no-code knowledge, and take it up a couple of notches and beyond. And that's not all. When you join our amazing Patreon community, you're going to get access to some extra content such as Q&As, live streams, behind the scenes content, as well as our Patreon supported masterclass series, where I do an in-depth video about a specific topic that the community votes on. And in fact, speaking of Q&As, I'm going to be doing a comprehensive Q&A later this week. You can ask your question on my Patreon page, and I'm going to be covering it during our extensive Q&A, which I have scheduled for later this week. So if you have an issue, if you're struggling with something, definitely join our amazing Patreon community. Ask your question, and I will definitely answer it during our comprehensive Q&A later this week. But above all, when you join our amazing Patreon community, you're going to be supporting this channel and supporting my work, which motivates me to make more and more of these videos where I explore key no-code topics that are important to you. And so if any of that sounds like something that's going to provide you with some level of value, then I definitely urge you to check out our amazing, rapidly growing Patreon community and consider becoming a member. And you can do just that via the link in the description below this video. Now, if you guys want to see more videos about this amazing backend called PocketBase, and definitely check out the playlist of videos that I have right there. I have some comprehensive videos that cover in depth many of the topics that I talked about in today's comprehensive app building tutorial.